It all started when I inherited the house from my Aunt Eleanor. I hadn't been back to Cedar Ridge in years, not since I was a kid. The small town seemed almost untouched by time, its quaint charm and close-knit community both comforting and slightly eerie. When the lawyer called about the will, I was stunned. I didn't even know Aunt Eleanor had left anything behind, much less a sprawling, decrepit mansion. I remembered the house vaguely from childhood visits, a looming Victorian structure with ivy crawling up its walls and windows that seemed to watch you. As I drove up the gravel driveway, the house came into view, looking even more foreboding than I remembered. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across its facade, making it appear almost alive. The windows, dusty and cracked, glinted dully in the fading light. I parked the car and walked up to the front door, the key the lawyer had given me feeling heavy in my hand. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and pushed it open. The hinges creaked ominously, echoing through the empty hall. "Hello?" I called out, though I knew no one was there. The house had been empty for years. The air inside was stale, carrying the faint scent of decay and dust. I wandered through the rooms, memories of my childhood visits flooding back. Grand staircase, the ornate yet worn furnishings, the antique mirrors reflecting distorted images of the past. It was all just as I remembered, yet somehow more sinister now that I was alone. Over the next few days, I began the arduous task of sorting through the house. It was clear that Aunt Eleanor had been something of a hoarder. Every room was filled with knickknacks, old furniture, and stacks of papers. As I was cleaning out one of the upstairs bedrooms, I found a small locked box hidden in the back of a closet. The box was old and dusty with intricate carvings on its surface. Intrigued, I searched for the key. After an hour of rummaging through drawers and shelves, I found it taped to the back of a portrait of Aunt Eleanor. I unlocked the box and opened it, revealing a collection of old letters in a worn, leather-bound journal. The letters were addressed to Aunt Eleanor, but it was the journal that caught my attention. It was filled with handwritten entries, and as I flipped through the pages, I realized it was a record of strange occurrences and supernatural events that Eleanor had experienced in the house. One entry read, June 5, 1978. The whispers are getting louder. I can hear them at night, calling my name. I fear the house is alive, and it wants something from me. Chills ran down my spine as I read her words. I had always thought Aunt Eleanor was just eccentric, but this journal suggested something far more disturbing. I decided to take a break and clear my head, hoping that some fresh air would help me shake off the unease that had settled over me. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the journal. The house was deathly quiet, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard it, a faint whisper, almost imperceptible, but unmistakably real. Eleanor. My heart pounded in my chest. I sat up, straining to hear more. The whisper came again, louder this time. Eleanor. I jumped out of bed and ran to the hallway, but it was empty. The whispers stopped, leaving only the sound of my ragged breathing. I told myself it was just my imagination, the power of suggestion from reading the journal. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The next morning, I called my friend Mark. He had always been skeptical about the supernatural, but he agreed to come over and help me with the house. "Hey Mark, thanks for coming," I said when he arrived. "No problem, Jake." "You sounded pretty freaked out on the phone. What's going on?" I showed him the journal and told him about the whispers. He read a few pages, his skepticism slowly giving way to concern. "Okay, this is creepy, but maybe there's a logical explanation. Old houses make weird noises. And this place is ancient." "Yeah, maybe," I replied, though I wasn't convinced. Over the next few days, the disturbances grew more frequent. Objects would move on their own, lights would flicker, and the whispers. They were constant now, always calling Eleanor's name. Mark tried to rationalize everything, but even he was starting to get spooked. One evening, we were in the living room, sorting through more of Eleanor's belongings. The sun had set, and the house was cast in deep shadows. "Mark, do you hear that?" I asked, my voice trembling. He nodded, his face pale. "Yeah, I hear it." The whispers were louder than ever, echoing through the room. We both stood up, looking around nervously. "Let's check the basement," Mark suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. We grabbed flashlights and made our way down the creaky stairs. The basement was cold and damp, filled with old furniture and boxes. As we explored, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "There," Mark pointed to a dark corner of the basement. A faint, glowing light was emanating from behind a stack of crates. We moved the crates aside, revealing a hidden door, It was old and covered in strange symbols. I hesitated, but Mark pushed it open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it sat an ancient-looking book. The whispers were deafening now, almost as if they were coming from the book itself. "This must be it," Mark said, reaching for the book. "Wait," I shouted, but it was too late. The moment Mark touched the book, a cold, malevolent force swept through the room, knocking us both to the ground. When I came to, Mark was gone. The book lay open on the floor, its pages filled with indecipherable symbols. The whispers had stopped, replaced by a heavy, oppressive silence. "Mark?" I called out, but there was no answer. I stumbled up the stairs and searched the house, but he was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as I realized something terrible had happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house felt different, more sinister. I kept seeing shadows moving out of the corner of my eye, and the air was thick with an oppressive energy. Around midnight, I heard a noise from the basement. Grabbing a flashlight, I cautiously made my way down. "Mark," I whispered, but only the echo of my own voice answered. Suddenly, a cold hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around, dropping the flashlight. In the dim light, I saw Mark, or at least something that looked like him. His eyes were empty, devoid of any humanity. "Jake," he said in a voice that wasn't his. "It's too late. The house has claimed us." "What do you mean?" I asked, backing away. "The book. It's a conduit. It opens a gateway to another realm. The spirits here are trapped, and they need a host to escape." I shook my head, refusing to believe it. "No, this can't be happening. We need to get out of here." Mark, or whatever was controlling him, laughed. A cold, hollow sound. "There's no escape, Jake. You belong to the house now." Over the next few days, I watched helplessly as Mark's condition worsened. He would disappear for hours, only to return with no memory of where he had been. The whispers were relentless, filling the house with their malevolent presence. One night, I found him in the basement, standing in front of the open book. His eyes were glazed over, and he was chanting in a language I didn't understand. "Mark, stop," I cried, but he didn't respond. I tried to pull him away, but a force pushed me back, slamming me into the wall. "Leave him," a voice whispered in my ear. "He is ours now." I ran upstairs, my heart pounding. I knew I needed help, but who could I turn to? The townspeople would think I was crazy. Desperate, I called my brother, Tom. "Jake, what's going on?" He asked when he arrived the next day. "It's Mark. He's possessed." "The house, it's evil. We need to leave." Tom looked at me skeptically. "Possessed? Jake, are you sure you're not imagining things?" "I'm not crazy, Tom. Please, just come inside and see for yourself." Reluctantly, he followed me into the house. As soon as we entered, the whispers started again. Tom's face paled, and he glanced around nervously. "What the hell is that?" he asked. "The spirits. They're trapped here, and they're using Mark to escape." Tom shook his head. "This is insane. We need to get out of here." As we turned to leave, the door slammed shut. The house shook, and a cold wind swept through the room. Mark appeared at the top of the stairs, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "You can't leave," he said in that same otherworldly voice. "The house won't let you." Tom and I tried everything to escape, but the house had other plans. Every door we opened led to another room, every window was sealed shut. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, driving us to the brink of madness. "We need to destroy the book," I said, my voice trembling. "It's the only way to break the connection." Tom nodded. "All right, let's do it." We made our way to the basement, the air growing colder with each step. Mark was waiting for us, the book clutched in his hands. "You can't stop it," he said. "The house will claim you, just like it claimed me." With a surge of adrenaline, Tom tackled Mark, knocking the book from his hands. I grabbed it and ran to the fireplace, throwing it into the flames. The house shook violently, and a deafening scream filled the air. "Jake, look out!" Tom shouted, but it was too late. A cold, invisible force grabbed me, lifting me off the ground. I struggled, but it was no use. The house had me. "Jake, no," Tom cried, but I was already gone, pulled into the darkness. Tom managed to escape, but he never spoke of what happened in the house. The town whispered about the Marlow House, about the strange occurrences and the people who went missing. But no one dared to go near it. Years later, the house still stands, a silent sentinel at the edge of town. The whispers continue, calling out for new victims. And somewhere in the darkness I am trapped, a prisoner of the house, my spirit forever bound to its malevolent will. And so, The Marlow House remains, a place of nightmares, where the line between the living and the dead is blurred, and the whispers of the possessed echo through its halls, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lies within. Also, in the end, just don't forget, it wasn't just a puppy, so you better click that subscribe button.